Well, hello, hello. It is Thursday, and this is the State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitney Wiley, and we are here talking all things leadership with you. I'm excited about today because and we're talking about energy. We're talking about energy and the importance of energy, your energy, the energy you bring to the room, the energy you share or don't with those that you lead, and the energy that others have that affect you. So here's the thing, everything is energy, right? There's an Albert Einstein quote that says, everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. So I don't know about all that. I'm not as smart as Albert Einstein, or at least I don't think I am. But what I do know is that when you are not energetic, when you do not show up in your as your best self in an energetic, high vibrational state, it does have an impact on the rest of the room. And I can think of a number of times, and I'll share some examples before we're done today, where the person who was the leader, the person who was in charge, the room would be vibrant and energetic, and that person would come in, and immediately everything would just like crash. And as an exceptional leader, as a an effective and efficient leader, you can't operate that way. You just can't. And so you have to do things to guard your energy because you are energy for other people. And that's true for all of us, right? Whether you have a title or not, that is true for all of us. And it takes sometimes Herculean effort to keep your energy up. So, what say you, Robert?
I agree. There are some people, excuse me, that can just, they say they suck the air out of the room, uh, or they. I'm trying to be nice, or they just don't realize the impact that they have on others. And one of the things that we always talk about is that when it comes to emotions and emotional, there is a such a thing as emotional energy.
Yeah,
And I think a good place to start is really defining what energy is. And
go for it.
my personal definition of energy is your capacity for output. It's your capacity for output, just simple. And it could be physical output, it could be emotional output, it could be mental output, it could be spiritual output.
Yeah,
And when we talk about spiritual, we're talking about your sense of purpose. And that may connect with your religion, it may not, but I just want to be very clear about that. But it's your capacity for output. And there are some things that enhance your capacity for output.
yeah.
And there are some things that make it very difficult for you to have any kind of output whatsoever.
That is very true. So why don't we start there? Well, you started there with the definition. I
Mhm.
love your definition, and but let's talk about that in this capacity, and some things that you can do to guard it, to enhance it, to and recognizing. Here's the thing, that whether you intend to or not, right? Everything is connected. Everything is interconnected and interdependent. Therefore, it just is, right? So you're affected by other people, other things, other people's emotions, their states, and they are affected by yours. And often, you think about the saying, what is birds of a feather, right? Birds of a feather. And you think, well, when someone says that to you, inevitably they're talking about someone's negative behavior affecting yours. And the question I always have, well, why isn't it my positive behavior is affecting, right? Why doesn't it go the other way? Well, it does go the other way, but you have to guard against sort of the negative energy taking over in order to push that back out. And so for some reason, negativity, well, I know the reason, but I'm going to say some reason negativity seems to have an easier time overtaking the positive than the other way around. And we really have to be intentional and work on maintaining the positive energy, that positive capacity, right? As opposed to negative taking over. And the answer for that goes to our negativity bias, right? We have this inherent negativity bias that comes by way of evolution and protecting ourselves from the environment and the things that were in the environment. And so we have adapted to looking out for, saber-toothed tigers around every corner. But we don't live in a culture that requires that, right? Well, at least most of us don't live in a culture
Most of us don't.
that requires that you're looking out for lions, tigers, and bears everywhere you go. And so it's not that physical danger, but it's more emotional, spiritual, it's mental that we're looking out for. And so we're still scouring the landscape for those landmines. And that's why sort of the negative has an easier time taking over the positive than the other way around. But you can undo that. And it just requires that you be intentional and make choices that move you in that direction.
I love that. And we sometimes forget that that is an evolutionary type of response to, when times were simpler in one way, but way more dangerous in another way. If you wanted food, you went out and you got it.
Right.
you hunted your food or you grew it. But also,
or you were food,
or you work. I was going to say, or the things hunting you. So that's a great. I love the fact that you brought that in there. And the other thing that you hinted at is that energy, interacts with other types of energy. You're being physically drained is going to totally affect your mental capacity or your emotional capacity. Don't believe me? Just talk to somebody. Ask somebody who's really tired a bunch of questions and see how they emotionally respond to you, right? They will probably bite your head off. So there's that interplay there, and you need to know, you need to know yourself and know, like, okay, I'm tired right now. I can't have this type of conversation right now, or I'm emotionally drained because I've been dealing with a very contentious situation. I probably don't have the emotional capacity to deal with another, possibly contentious or heavy situation. Know yourself and know what your capacity is. And it just takes some monitoring and being mindful and conscious of it. And a lot of times we forget because we have our default tendencies. And, we have the amygdala hijack that goes on, all that stuff. Try to think rationally when you're really anxious about something can be very, very difficult. But know yourself, and that's very helpful in those situations.
I love that, and that reminder is self-awareness, right? Know yourself. It's self-awareness. It's the number one thing that you can do that helps you across just about everything that goes on. And so, we have a framework, simple, and it starts with self-awareness and it ends with energy.
Yeah.
Right? So simple, SIMPLE, self-awareness, intentionality, mastery, purposefulness, leverage, and energy. And it is energy that, sort of brings all the other pieces together in terms of your capacity to to pay attention to who you are and what you're doing, how you're impacting people, recognizing that. And right, that goes back to tying the pieces together of emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
self-awareness, self-management, or self-control, self-management, social awareness, and then social management or relationship management, right? And so these pieces, and still they're all tied together by energy, the energy that you bring to the table. So thanks for bringing up the self-awareness piece.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's really interesting. We're building to really talk about the simple framework. And I think that before we get there, let's talk a little bit about things that drain your energy.
Yeah.
Things and people. And so there are things that drain your energy, and I kind of put them in the different buckets. Not getting enough sleep, that's certainly physical. Not eating well, that is also physical. Doing work that isn't connected to your sense of purpose, that's spiritual. We've all had those jobs. I'm just doing it for the paycheck. That's great the first couple of months. And then all of a sudden you just can't get out of bed. Your Sunday night is you're staring at the ceiling going, oh, I gotta do this all over again. So it's not connected with your sense of purpose. Tasks that are way too challenging for you, doing things that require much more mental capacity than you have the bandwidth for. Sometimes you need to ask other people, but that's part of that mental energy, that drain. And of course, being around negative people, we all have them in our lives. I've been the negative person. Sometimes I try not to be.
I've been the negative person.
You can be, but I think the key is trying not to be chronically negative. And
right.
Chronically negative people, that impacts your emotional energy. You don't want to, I don't want to say you don't want to be around those people, because you may not have a choice. That person may just be in your life, but you need to know how to deal with people that are chronically negative. So that's the impact. And then you have the flip side of that, things that restore your energy, getting rest, eating well, exercise. I got to start doing more of that stuff. Creating healthy boundaries with people, so that you can, deal with those folks that are, energy drains. Work on projects that are connected to your sense of purpose. And if you can't find that in the job that you're in, then you may have to find another job if it's that, hard for you. Spend time with people, and, or in places that help you recharge. If you like to be out in nature, that can be really good for you. Go out there, do things that help you recharge yourself, and be around people that help you recharge. Maybe they are, just encouraging to you. Maybe they give you positive ideas. Maybe they're people that you can share the mental load with when you're, taking on a very challenging project, things like that.
Something that's important, going back to self-awareness and this concept of recharging and people, is understanding whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? And not buying into the definition or the notion that being an extrovert means that you're outgoing, right? Lots of introverts are outgoing. This right, introverts and extrovert, being an introvert or extrovert is more about energy and how you recharge, how you are filled up, rather than whether or not you're outgoing. Because like I feel like I'm pretty outgoing. I am definitely an introvert. So last week I trained 2 days, two full 2 full days, right? And at the end of the second day, all I wanted to do was sleep. Now, I love training. I love teaching. I love being around people, sharing, helping them to develop and become who they want to become, right? I love that. But when I'm done, I'm done. I'm done, right? When I used to work for my former employer, and we had these conferences, we had conferences twice a year. And then I was also responsible for an additional 2-day event for lawyers, a CLE event that we put on. Loved the work, loved putting those on, loved the people. And then when I was crashing because I need to sort of withdraw, to turn in order to recharge. Some people, they get the charge out of that and just can keep going and keep going. So it's important for you to understand, have self-awareness about how your energy is recharged or how it is drained so that you can pick the strategies that Robert mentioned, right? So that you can understand when something is draining you, what's going on, or when something is feeding you, how to get more of that, how to to bring more of that into your life. And as you were talking, you talked about exercise. I am on, today is day 132 days of movement every single day. So I had made
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. At the end of last year, I made a commitment to do a January challenge. And it was to move every day in January. And I actually have done this challenge for the past 4 years. I think 4 or 5 years. Every January, starting the year off with everyday movement, right? And it doesn't have to be grand movement, walking, running, lifting weights, yoga, whatever, just intentional movement. And as I was nearing the end of January this year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do 100 days. And at the time that I made that decision, I had plans of running in this event at the end of April. And so that particular event, it historically had been earlier in April, and it fell around the 100th day of the year. And so I had done that a couple of times in the past leading up to that event, when me and my team have run. It was a Ragnar event. And so start the year with this Ragnar 31-day challenge. And then I turn it into a 100-day challenge just to keep moving, so that I was ready for that event. And then my thought was, after that event, I'll take a couple of days off and I'll get moving again. Well, it didn't come together this year, so we didn't do the event. And I made the decision, though, to turn that. I'm just going to move every day this year, right? Not going to make a big deal about it, but I'm going to make a big deal, right? And what I have found actually is there was a day, somewhere around day 63, 64, I think it was, when I actually noticed that I wanted to get out and move. And it was this, the thing that came to mind was, a body in motion tends to stay in motion. It's like, if I continue to move, and every day I have felt really energetic. I'm sleeping well. I get up early. I go to bed early. But I feel like throughout the day that when I move, that I'm way more energetic than those days when I actually save my movement towards the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So normally I work out in the morning. And on days that I'm training, because I'm training people on the East Coast, I'm starting like at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I don't tend to. And so
Right.
the movement gets moved to later in the day. And I noticed the difference between the two. But overall, over the course of this 130 something days, my energy level is higher than I can think of that it's been at any point, probably since I was a kid.
That's
Right.
great.
And so, and then what has come from that is a recognition of the consistency. So then I have this piece of me that is succeeding at something. I'm celebrating that. Right. We get the dopamine and the serotonin and the other one.
Yeah.
Endorphin.
Okay, yeah.
Endorphin, serotonin, and then the three of them, right? Because I'm moving, I'm celebrating, and I'm happy. That all of that helps to increase the energy, so that when I show up here, right, and today I'm standing, right? I'm standing, and I trained yesterday. I stood up for the whole 6 hours while I was training yesterday, right? And it makes a difference, the movement, and then it has effects on the other parts of your life. And that's what we're looking for, right? In creating change, you start somewhere, and then you let that sort of snowball and move into other aspects of your life. So, sleeping well, and now I'm caring about what I eat. Right? I'm trying to pay more attention to what I eat. That wasn't the initial point of it. It was just to be moving, because movement is good. And then I noticed that this whole energy thing around it, and when you tie all these pieces together, it has an impact. It starts with you.
Mhm.
And then it flows out, because that's what energy does. It flows out. So what are you allowing to flow from you? Ultimately is the question that we have for you. And when you're paying attention to the energy coming and going, the flow of energy, are you creating energy? Are you draining? Are you drained of energy? Are you draining other people's energy? Right? It all matters, because it's all interconnected.
Yeah. So what does this have to do with leadership?
Tell us.
What was that?
I said, tell us.
But no, it has everything to do with leadership, right?
Yes.
Because it starts with yourself, like you said. It's self-care, and the more energy you have, the more energy you can give to other people and share with other people. And I think so. When we talk about simple, when we talk about energy, we define that in simple as, the effort that leaders put out to help their followers achieve a goal. And with that, a leader has a lot of different activities that they can and should engage in. The first one is, exhibiting role model behavior. We've talked about this pretty much since day one. It's really setting the tone through your own actions, coaching your folks, mentoring them, really important, counseling them, giving them appropriate advice, challenging their ideas, not for the sake of just challenging their ideas or because you're the boss and you think that your ideas are the more important ones, but you're challenging their ideas. Some bosses do. You're challenging their ideas to help them grow beyond the role that they're in at that moment. And that's the purpose, to challenge their ideas. And I think that you need, this is how you show energy, and you need to have the capacity to do those things. And if you're not giving to yourself, if you're not energetic and engaged, you're not going to be able to do that.
Exactly. And I think probably, I don't want to say the most important thing, but certainly very high is what you said about being an example, right? Setting the example, not talking about what other people should do, but being that, not just doing it, but being that, so that other people will see, okay, that's how that's done, right? And then you are able to do the other things that you talked about from a place of respect and credibility, right? Coaching. And why am I listening to you, right? Why, or as a mentor, why am I listening to you? Why am I thinking I can learn from you when I'm watching you and you're not exhibiting any behaviors that are worth emulating, right? And so this concept of um, being someone who exhibits, an energetic, a positive, um, a growth minded approach to life and to work makes a huge difference, because people are paying attention not just to what you're saying, but how you're being.
Right.
Right.
I think that is huge. Your example is so important. And I think that sometimes leaders, and we always talk about the difficulty that leaders have. I mean, they have a hard job. It is hard, leading a group of people who are different from you are,
Yes.
who think differently, who have different emotional responses or reactions, and you have to balance all of that, and you have to make sure you're doing what the organization wants and get
Yeah.
all. So it's a hard job. So, but you'll have a lot more success if you start with these things, really being mindful of how you're interacting with your folks. And I think people, you can forget that at times, right? Because
Yeah.
you're the boss and you start using that position power. You know that in most cases, you tell somebody to do something, they're going to do it. You don't really monitor how you say it, but those things will come back and affect you negatively down
Yeah.
the line. So you want to make sure that you're putting the effort in up front so that things will get easier and easier, not the reverse.
And I think that's where, certainly, when I am working with my clients, reminding them, right, that it is the effort, the time, the energy that you put in on the front end is going to pay dividends down the line. And it's really easy to not want to do it this way, because it every moment, every bit of energy that you use up front is something that you don't, it is time and energy and effort that you don't have for something else that is calling for your attention right now.
Right.
Right. So you've got other things that are pressing. However, if think of it as an investment, right? The investment that gives you the long term, in the long term, the ROI on this is, immense, rather than, like you said, doing, authority, and approaching it that way, or not paying attention to what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then looking up and seeing that you are replacing employees who are are leaving in droves because you're not paying attention to how you're interacting with them, and you're creating an environment that is not working for them.
Right.
And your point about how hard this is, right? It's such mad respect for people who do this effectively, who do leadership in a way that is developing, and sort of awe-inspiring is the way I see it, when it's done well, and you can see a team that is like running on all cylinders. Everybody is not only doing their part, but they're doing it in a manner that you can see that their human needs are being met as a part of it, right? That they are passionate about what they're doing. even if it's not specifically the work that they're doing, they're passionate about the contribution that they are able to make, the difference that they are make of being a part of the team. And that starts at the top. And it flows from your energy.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's that was well said. And we just really need to, it is awe inspiring when you see somebody who's really doing it well, because we know, right? These are some of the people that we coach. We know the effort that it took to, that it took them to get there. They really worked hard to get there. And so hats off to the leaders out there that are really doing this really well, who are conscientious about their energy, who monitor their energy, who help people connect with their job in meaningful ways, who challenge those workers appropriately so they can excel. I mean, it takes a lot. You have to really think, and then you have to manage the day-to-day,
all the other stuff.
So
Right.
we forget that, and I love the fact that you're giving those people respect, because I know a lot of times on our show we talk about people that aren't doing it well, but there are some people out there that are really doing it well.
Absolutely.
We're looking at it, and we want to make sure that we acknowledge their effort and know how hard it is to do it.
Absolutely. No, you're right. And, the reason that we point out the people who aren't doing it well is just to be instructive to those who haven't encountered some things. It's like, this is out here and this is an approach that's probably not going to serve you and your team well. But certainly we will bring examples of people who are doing it well. And, but for right now, just thank you for those of you who are paying attention and doing the job that real leaders do. So do you have a final word as we wrap up?
Know yourself. Know yourself. Just, if you have a challenge that keeps coming up, right? You having the same type of arguments, having the same type of challenges, having the same type of issues with employees, that is a sign that you need to start paying attention, right? So, start right there. I think that's, and then look at how you're contributing to that. Because if it's happening with different people in different times and different organizations, the only common denominator is you. So pay attention, start thinking about what you're doing that could be contributing to it.
I love that. And I'm just going to reiterate the things that you said earlier about watching what drains you and watching and paying attention to what will increase your energy, right? Make sure that you're moving, that you're setting boundaries, right? And a lot of this boils down really to self-care, understanding, and speaking of know yourself, understanding what works for you, right, in terms of your self-care, so that you are constantly feeding yourself so that you can show up as your best self. My day starts with a couple of hours of introspection, meditation, journaling, and affirmations, visualization, movement, and it takes time, right? I see that as an investment that actually pays huge dividends. There's a huge ROI on the time that I spend every morning setting up for my day, paying attention to my mindset and how I'm going, what I want the end of the day. How do I want to feel at the end of the day? How do I want to be at the end of the day? Right. So that when I am done, when I've shut down work and I am spending time with my family, my husband who lives here in the house, but my husband, friends, family in general, right, that I have something to share with them, and that I'm not spending that time complaining about work or whatever's going on in my life. And I have absolutely no complaints about work, right? I have created work in a life that allows me to enjoy myself. And all of that stems from my paying attention to how I am using my energy and how or whether I am in the presence of people or activities that drain my energy. And if that is the case, what I'm going to do then to replenish it. So pay attention, know yourself, know what works for you, do that, and pay attention to how you're impacting other people. Hugely important. So we want to thank you for joining us. It has been an absolute blast talking about this topic. And we would love to hear your thoughts. We would love for you to share your input on this. So let's get a conversation started. What are the things that you're doing that help you with your energy? And with that, if you are watching on YouTube, right, you can hit the like and subscribe. We would love to have you as a subscriber. If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, leave a comment, like, or something more than like. You can love it too. You can like it or love it, either way. And if there's anything Robert or I can do to be of assistance and helping you with your organization, or if you are looking for a coach, need a coach, feel free to reach out to either or both of us and see if one or the other of us could be the coach that you're looking for or the consultant that your organization needs. So with that, we want to thank you for joining us for the State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. And we look forward to seeing you again next time, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, and any time that translates to where you are. So take care.
I know.